Ladies and gentlemen, we all desire happiness and peace, yet time and again we find ourselves hurt by words, actions, or even the silence of those around us. The truth is, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. There is a way to navigate life so that hurt loses its power over us. It begins not with changing the world, but with transforming ourselves. Today, I want to share the secret to never being hurt by anyone again. 1. Understand your worth. The moment you realize your value does not depend on others' opinions, their words or actions lose the power to wound you. Your self-respect becomes your shield. Let go of expectations. Hurt often comes from unmet expectations. When you stop expecting others to act a certain way, you free yourself from disappointment. Life becomes lighter when you expect less and observe more. 3. Practice forgiveness. Forgiveness is not for them, it is for you. Holding grudges chains your mind to pain. Letting go of resentment allows you to rise above hurt. 4. Build emotional immunity. Strengthen your mind like you strengthen your mind like you strengthen your body. Daily reflection, meditation or journaling can help you respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively to pain. 5. Focus on your reactions, not others' actions. You cannot control what people do, but you can control your response. When you choose calm over anger and understanding over resentment, hurt loses its grip. 6. Surround yourself with positivity. People affect your energy. Surround yourself with those who uplift, inspire, and encourage you. Distance yourself from toxic relationships quietly without anger. 7. Learn to detach when to people or outcomes often bring suffering. When you engage in life with love but without clinging, you enjoy the beauty of relationships without being hurt by them. 8. Practice self-love. Invest time in nurturing yourself. When you feel whole, validation from others becomes secondary. Self-love acts as an invisible armor against hurt. 9. See pain as a teacher. Every hurt carries a lesson. Instead of asking, why me? Ask, what is this teaching me? Pain transforms into wisdom when viewed as an opportunity for growth. 10. Live in the present. Most hurt comes from past wounds or imagined future scenarios. By fully embracing the present, you experience life as it is, pure, simple, and untainted by unnecessary pain. Ladies and gentlemen, the secret to never being hurt is not in controlling the world, but in mastering your mind, your reactions, and your heart. When you do this, hurt may touch you, but it will no longer define or control you. You become free, unshakable, and filled with a peace that no one can take away. The first and perhaps the most important step in protecting yourself from being hurt by others is to truly understand your own worth. Many of us live our lives seeking validation from the world around us. We measure ourselves by the words people speak to us, the praise they give, or even by the recognition of our efforts. And yet, what we often forget is that the world's opinion of us is not a reflection of our value. True worth is internal. It is who you are at your core, independent of the approval or disapproval of anyone else. When you understand this, you build a kind of immunity to hurt that is unshakable. Understanding your worth begins with self-reflection. It requires looking at yourself honestly and acknowledging your strengths, your uniqueness, and even your flaws. Every one of us is a combination of talents, experiences, and values that cannot be duplicated. Your smile, your kindness, your ability to listen, your persistence, and even your failures contribute to your individuality. When you begin to recognize and celebrate these qualities, you no longer rely on others to tell you that you are enough. You become your own source of validation. But understanding your worth is not just about feeling good about yourself. It is also about setting boundaries. When you know your value, you naturally stop allowing people to treat you in ways that are disrespectful, unkind, or dismissive. You stop tolerating relationships that drain you or situations that diminish your spirit. It is a quiet yet firm assertion that you deserve respect, dignity, and love just by being you. And this is not arrogance. It is the gentle power of self-respect, the kind of confidence that comes from a deep inner awareness rather than external approval. When you understand your worth, you also begin to notice a shift in how you view criticism and negativity. Hurtful words lose their power when you know who you are. Someone might insult you, misunderstand you, or act in ways that seem unfair, but instead of letting it wound you, you can observe it with detachment. You realize that their behavior reflects more about them than it does about your value. In other words, when your sense of self is rooted in internally, The external world with all its judgments and opinions cannot shake you. Furthermore, understanding your worth empowers you to make choices that align with your true self. So you become selective about the people you allow into your life, the opportunities you pursue, and even the thoughts you entertain. You start prioritizing what nourishes your mind, heart, and soul rather than chasing fleeting approval. Life becomes less about seeking validation and more about living authentically. And when you live authentically, the likelihood of being hurt diminishes, not because the world stops being harsh, but because your reaction to its harshness changes. Harshness changes. You respond from a place of confidence rather than fear, from a place of calm rather than insecurity. In essence, understanding your worth is the foundation of emotional freedom. It is the first step in never being hurt by anyone again because it shifts the source of your happiness from external to internal. When you truly know and feel your value, you no longer let anyone's words, actions, or indifference define you. You become like a tree with deep roots, bending with the winds of life, yet never breaking, never uprooted, and always standing tall in your own light. One of the most common reasons we feel hurt is because of the expectations we place on others. We expect people to act a certain way, to behave according to our wishes, to respond to us with the understanding or care we believe they should. And when they don't, we feel disappointed, frustrated, or even betrayed. Yet, the truth is that no one owes us anything. Every person has their own journey, their own struggles, and their own way of seeing the world. By holding rigid expectations, we set ourselves up for repeated hurt. The secret to protecting yourself is to let go of these expectations and embrace life as it comes. Letting go of expectations does not mean you stop caring about others or that you become indifferent. Rather, it means that you recognize the limits of your control. You cannot control how others speak, act, or think, but you can control how you respond. When you stop expecting people to behave exactly as you want, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering. You stop being at the mercy of someone else's choices and start taking ownership of your own peace and happiness. Expectations often come from habit, past experiences, or even cultural conditioning. From a young age, we are taught to expect love, support, and validation from certain people, parents, friends, partners, colleagues. And while these expectations may be natural, they become a source of pain when reality does not meet them. The key is to shift perspective. Instead of focusing on what should happen, focus on what is happening. Life becomes less about frustration and more about acceptance. You begin to notice the beauty in people's differences rather than being hurt by their inability to meet your standards. Letting go of expectations also allows you to develop compassion. When someone fails to act as you hope, you can pause and reflect. Perhaps they are dealing with their own pain, pressures, or limitations. Rather than taking it personally, you see that everyone is doing the best they can with what they have. This shift in perspective transforms your heart from one that feels wounded to one that is understanding and empathetic. Furthermore, releasing expectations brings freedom to your relationships. Interactions become more authentic because they are no longer transactions where you give expecting a return. Love, friendship, and collaboration become acts of generosity rather than obligations. You start enjoying people for who they are, not for what you hope they will be. The joy in relationships grows exponentially when you stop projecting your desires onto others. When we cling to expectations, we also create unnecessary internal tension. The mind is constantly replaying a what if, see, and a shoulds, which leads to stress, anxiety, and disappointment. By letting go, you allow yourself to live fully in the present moment. You stop worrying about how others will act or what they will do next. Instead, you focus on your own actions, your own growth, and your own happiness. This is the essence of emotional freedom. Peace that comes not from controlling the world, but from controlling your own mind. In essence, letting go of expectations is a profound act of self-liberation. It does not change other people, but it changes you. You stop being a victim of your own hopes and desires. You stop giving away your power to others. And in that release, you discover a calm, steady, and unshakable peace. Life becomes lighter, relationships become richer, and the fear of being hurt diminishes. Because when you stop expecting the world to behave a certain way, you are finally free to experience it exactly as it is. Beautiful, imperfect, and profoundly alive. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful tools you can use to protect yourself from being hurt by others. And yet it is also one of the most misunderstood. Many people think forgiveness means excusing someone else's behavior, pretending that nothing happened. But the truth is, forgiveness is not about them, it is about you. It is a gift you give to your own mind and heart, a way of releasing the burden of anger, resentment, and pain so that you can live freely. When you practice forgiveness, you take the power to hurt you out of someone else's hands. Hurt lingers because we hold on to it. When someone wrongs us, our minds replay the incident over and over again. We relive the words, the actions, and the feelings of betrayal, letting them become a constant companion in our thoughts. Every time we do this, we allow the other person to continue influencing our emotional state long after the event has passed. Forgiveness breaks this cycle. It does not erase the memory, but it erases the power that memory has to disturb your peace. You reclaim control over your mind, your emotions, and ultimately your life. True forgiveness requires a shift in perspective. It means understanding that people act according to their own limitations, pain, and experiences. Someone might hurt you out of ignorance, fear, insecurity, or their own unresolved wounds. By seeing the situation through this lens, you begin to replace anger with empathy. This does not justify their behavior, but it allows you to release the grip of resentment and view the situation with clarity and calm. Forgiveness also creates a space for healing. When we hold grudges, we carry a heavy emotional burden. It weighs on our hearts, drains our energy, and clouds our thinking. But when we forgive, even silently or privately, we lighten that load. We give ourselves permission to move forward without dragging the past behind us. Healing becomes possible because we are no longer chained to the actions of someone else. Instead, we focus on restoring our own inner balance and harmony. Moreover, practicing forgiveness strengthens your emotional resilience. Life is filled with moments where people will disappoint, offend, or betray us. These experiences are unavoidable. But when you cultivate forgiveness as a habit, you become less reactive to pain and more composed in the face of challenges. You respond with wisdom rather than anger, understanding rather than bitterness. Over time, you notice that the world's attempts to hurt you have less and less impact because your inner foundation is strong, steady, and untouchable. It is also important to understand that forgiveness is a process, not a single act. Sometimes it takes time to release the painfully. You may need to reflect, journal, or meditate on the incident and your feelings. That's perfectly normal. The goal is not to rush, but to persist. Every small step you take toward letting go is a step toward emotional freedom. Ultimately, forgiveness is a declaration of independence. It says, I will not let the actions of another define my peace. I am bigger than this moment. I am free from the chains of resentment. When you forgive, you are no longer a prisoner of past hurts. You open your heart to love, joy, and new experiences without fear. Forgiveness transforms hurt into strength, pain into wisdom, and weakness into unshakable inner peace. By practicing forgiveness, you discover one of life's deepest truths. The power to be unhurt does not lie in changing others, but in transforming yourself. It is an act of courage, of wisdom, and above all, of self-love. One of the most profound ways to protect yourself from being hurt by others is to build emotional immunity. Just as our bodies develop resistance to disease through strong immunity, our minds and hearts can develop resilience to the ups and downs of life. Emotional immunity is the ability to remain steady and composed, even when the world around us becomes chaotic or hurtful. It is not about avoiding pain or pretending that difficulties don't exist. It is about cultivating an inner strength that allows you to respond to challenges with clarity and calm, rather than being swept away by them. Building emotional immunity starts with self-awareness. The first step is understanding your triggers, the words, actions, or situations that typically hurt you. By identifying these triggers, you gain the power to observe them without immediately reacting. Awareness is like the immune system recognizing an invading virus. Once you know it is there, you can respond strategically instead of being overwhelmed. Over time, this practice reduces your sensitivity to emotional pain and strengthens your inner core. Another critical element of emotional immunity is developing mindfulness. Mindfulness teaches you to live fully in the present moment without getting caught in the webs of past grievances or future anxieties. When you focus on what is happening now, you stop giving power to imagined scenarios or memories that cause suffering. Mindfulness allows you to respond with thoughtfulness rather than react impulsively. It is a daily practice that gradually trains the mind to remain balanced. Even when faced with criticism, rejection, or betrayal, building emotional immunity also involves managing your thoughts. Often the hurt we feel is magnified by negative thinking. A single critical comment can spiral into a story in our minds, convincing us that we are unworthy, unloved, or incapable. By training yourself to recognize these thought patterns and challenge them, you create mental resilience. Affirmations, journaling, or reflective meditation can help reframe negative thoughts into empowering ones. The stronger your mental habits, the more resistant you become to emotional pain. Equally important is cultivating emotional detachment. This does not mean becoming cold or indifferent. It means learning to separate your sense of self from the actions or words of others. When someone insults you, disappoints you, or acts unfairly, emotional detachment allows you to see it objectively. You understand that their behavior reflects their own struggles and limitations, not your worth. By creating this distance, you protect your inner peace from being hijacked by external forces. Developing emotional immunity also requires nurturing your body and mind. Physical well-being, proper sleep, healthy eating, and regular exercise all contribute to mental resilience. The stronger and more balanced your body, the more capable you are of handling stress and emotional turbulence. Practices like yoga, meditation, or even simple breathing exercises can strengthen your nervous system, making you less reactive to the storms of life. Finally, building emotional immunity is about patience and persistence. Like any skill, it takes time and consistent effort. Every challenging interaction, every disappointment, and every hurtful experience is an opportunity to practice resilience. Each time you respond calmly rather than react impulsively, your immunity grows stronger. Over time, you reach a point where you are not easily shaken by the opinions, words, or actions of others. You become like a calm lake. No matter how much wind blows on the surface, the depth remains undisturbed. In essence, building emotional immunity is the art of taking control of your inner world. It allows you to face life's challenges with courage, wisdom, and grace. When your mind and heart are resilient, the hurt that once could have destroyed your peace now bounces off, leaving you stronger, wiser, and unshakable. Emotional immunity is not just a defense. It is a foundation for lasting happiness, freedom, and inner strength. One of the most powerful ways to protect yourself from being hurt is to shift your focus from what others do to how you respond. Life is full of people whose actions, words, or attitudes may be upsetting or disappointing. And yet the truth is that you cannot control anyone else. You cannot dictate how someone will speak, act, or behave. You can, however, control your own reactions. This simple yet profound shift in focus is a cornerstone of emotional freedom and the secret to living unshaken by the behavior of others. Focusing on your reactions begins with understanding a basic truth. Pain often arises not from what happens to us, but from how we interpret it. Two people can experience the exact same situation, and one may be deeply hurt while the other remains calm. Why? Because the difference lies in the response. When you recognize that your power lies in your reaction, you stop giving others the ability to control your emotional state. You reclaim ownership of your feelings and with it, your peace. The next step is cultivating self-awareness. Pause before reacting. When someone says something hurtful or behaves in a way that disappoints you, take a breath and ask yourself, how do I want to respond? This simple pause can prevent many unnecessary arguments, regrets, and emotional wounds. Over time, this practice trains your mind to respond with thoughtfulness instead of impulsive emotion. The more deliberate your responses, the less likely you are to be hurt. Equally important is cultivating the habit of detachment. Detachment does not mean indifference or lack of empathy. It means observing situations without being emotionally consumed by them. When you detach, you see the action for what it is, an action from someone with their own perspectives, biases, and limitations, not a personal attack on you. This shift allows you to respond with calmness and wisdom rather than defensiveness or anger. Detachment is like stepping back from a storm and realizing that while the rain may fall around you, you do not have to be drenched. Focusing on your reactions also means practicing emotional regulation. This can be achieved through mindfulness, meditation, journaling, or even simple breathing exercises. By strengthening your inner control, you develop the ability to remain composed in the face of provocation. You stop reacting out of hurt or fear and instead respond from a place of strength, patience, and clarity. The person who masters their reactions is like a captain steering a ship through turbulent waters. They may not control the waves, but they can navigate with skill and grace. Another essential aspect is understanding that holding on to anger or resentment is ultimately self-destructive. When you react with rage, blame, or negativity, you allow another person to dominate your emotional world. Wafa. By consciously choosing your response, you reclaim that power and prevent yourself from being hurt unnecessarily. You learn to respond with calm assertiveness, compassion, or even silence when appropriate, turning potential pain into an opportunity for inner growth. Finally, focusing on your reactions transforms relationships and life experiences. You stop trying to control people and start controlling yourself. This shift creates more harmony, reduces conflict, and allows you to engage with the world from a place of confidence rather than fear. You are no longer a passive participant in your own emotional life, but an active architect of your peace and happiness. In essence, focusing on your reactions rather than others is a profound act of empowerment. It allows you to live free from the emotional manipulation or unpredictability of the world. You begin to understand that true strength is not in controlling others, but in mastering yourself. When you embrace this truth, hurt may touch you, but it can no longer define you. You become unshakable, resilient, and serene. A person whose peace is determined not by the chaos around them, but by the mastery within. One of the most effective ways to protect yourself from being hurt is to be mindful of the energy you allow into your life. Just as the air we breathe affects our physical health, the people, environments, and influences around us affect our emotional well-being. Surrounding yourself with positivity does not mean avoiding reality or pretending that life is perfect. It means consciously choosing the influences that uplift, inspire, and nurture your mind and heart, and minimizing exposure to those that drain or harm you. Positivity starts with people. The company you keep has a profound effect on your mood, thoughts, and actions. When you spend time with individuals who are encouraging, kind, and supportive, you are naturally uplifted. Their words and actions reinforce your self-worth, inspire hope, and give you the courage to face challenges. Conversely, toxic relationships, those filled with criticism, manipulation, or negativity, can chip away at your peace, even when they come from those closest to you. Recognizing this truth and taking the steps to nurture healthy connections is not selfish. It is essential self-care. Choosing positivity also means being selective about the environments you inhabit. Your surroundings influence your thoughts and emotions more than you may realize. Spaces that are chaotic, cluttered, or filled with conflict can foster stress, anxiety, and sadness. On the other hand, calm, orderly, and inspiring environments support clarity, peace, and happiness. This is why simple acts like organizing your home, spending time in nature, or seeking spaces that energize rather than drain you can have a significant impact on your emotional resilience. Beyond people and environments, positivity comes from the media, information, and content you consume. In today's world, we are constantly bombarded with news, opinions, and social media updates. If much of this content is negative, critical, or fear-inducing, it can quietly seep into your mind, shaping your mood and beliefs. Choosing to consume uplifting, educational, or inspiring content allows you to fill your mind with thoughts that empower rather than depress you. This conscious curation of influence is a critical aspect of emotional protection. Surrounding yourself with positivity also includes the messages you speak to yourself. Self-talk is one of the most powerful yet often overlooked sources of influence in life. Encouraging kind and motivating thoughts can boost your confidence and inner strength. On the other hand, harsh self-criticism or doubt can weaken your resolve and make you more vulnerable to external hurt. By actively nurturing positive thoughts and affirmations, you create a mental environment that supports resilience and joy. It is also important to recognize that surrounding yourself with positivity does not mean completely avoiding challenges or difficult people. Life is imperfect, And we will inevitably encounter negativity. However, it means building a buffer, a circle of support, influence, and energy that strengthens you so that when negativity arises, it does not overwhelm you. This protective network allows you to maintain your balance, even in the face of challenges. Finally, choosing positivity is a conscious daily practice. It requires reflection, courage, and sometimes difficult decisions, such as limiting contact with people who drain you or reducing exposure to harmful environments. But the reward is immense. A life filled with inspiration, support, and emotional safety. By surrounding yourself with positivity, you create a space where your heart and mind can flourish, where your self-worth is reinforced, and where hurt loses its power. In essence, the energy you allow into your life shapes the quality of your inner world. Positivity acts as a shield, protecting your peace while simultaneously enriching your experiences. By choosing uplifting people, environments, content, and thoughts, you cultivate a life in which your happiness is nurtured, your resilience is strengthened, and the ability of others to hurt you is greatly diminished. Positivity, when chosen intentionally, becomes not just a habit, but a foundation for lasting peace and freedom. One of the most profound ways to protect yourself from being hurt by others is to learn the art of detachment. Detachment is often misunderstood as indifference or coldness, but in reality, it is a deep form of wisdom and emotional intelligence. It is the ability to engage fully with life with love and care, yet not allow your peace and happiness to be dictated by the actions, opinions, or behaviors of others. Detachment is the practice of holding life gently in your hands without clinging, and it is one of the most powerful tools to remain unshakable in a world that is unpredictable and often hurtful. At its core, detachment is about understanding what you can control and what you cannot. You cannot control other people's thoughts, their words, their actions, or their moods. You cannot make someone appreciate you, treat you fairly, or act according to your desires. The only thing you control is your own mind, your own heart, and your own responses. When you focus your energy on what is within your control, you stop wasting it on resentment, frustration, or attempts to manipulate circumstances that are beyond your reach. This clarity brings an inner peace that is unshakable. Detachment also means observing relationships and situations objectively. When you are attached to a certain outcome or behavior from someone, you create vulnerability to hurt. For example, expecting a friend to always support you exactly when you need it, or expecting a colleague to recognize your efforts can lead to disappointment if reality does not meet your expectation. Detachment allows you to experience life without such rigid expectations. You engage with people lovingly and sincerely, yet remain free from the emotional bondage of needing them to act a certain way. Another aspect of detachment is letting go of the past. Often we carry old wounds, grudges, or painful memories that make us sensitive to similar situations in the present. These attachments keep us bound to hurt, making us react to current experiences with unnecessary pain. Learning to release the past, acknowledging it, learning from it, and then letting it go frees you to live fully in the present moment. You are no longer a prisoner of previous disappointments or betrayals. Detachment also nurtures emotional stability. When you are overly attached, every small setback, criticism, or disagreement can feel like a personal attack. Your emotions swing like a pendulum, leaving you vulnerable and reactive. Detachment, however, provides a stabilizing force. You learn to respond calmly and thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively from fear, anger, or insecurity. This balance allows you to navigate relationships and challenges with grace and composure. It is important to understand that detachment does not mean avoiding life or relationships. On the contrary, it encourages deeper, healthier connections. When you are not clinging to people or outcomes, you can love more freely, communicate more clearly, and act with authenticity. People feel your sincerity because your engagement is genuine, not driven by dependency or need. Detachment allows you to participate fully in life while maintaining the inner freedom that protects you from being hurt. Finally, detachment is a practice, not an event. It requires conscious effort, self-reflection, and patience. Every interaction, every relationship, and every challenge is an opportunity to practice letting go of attachment. With time, you begin to experience a profound liberation. The ability to care deeply without being consumed by worry, disappointment, or fear. Detachment transforms your relationships, your mind, and your life into a space where peace is the foundation and hurt can no longer find a permanent place. In essence, learning to detach is the art of holding life with gentle hands. It allows you to love, connect, and engage fully while remaining rooted in your own peace and freedom. Through detachment, you discover that happiness is not dependent on others and that hurt only has power if you give it space. When you practice this, you are free to experience life fully, yet remain unshaken, resilient, and serene. One of the most important ways to ensure you are never truly hurt by anyone is to cultivate self-love. Self-love is not selfishness or arrogance. It is the deep recognition that you are inherently worthy of care, respect, and compassion, starting with yourself. When you love yourself, you no longer seek validation from others to feel complete. And as a result, the opinions, actions, or judgments of those around you lose the power to wound you. Self-love is the foundation of emotional resilience, inner strength, and lasting peace. Practicing self-love begins with self-acceptance. It means embracing yourself fully, your strengths, your flaws, your achievements, and your mistakes. Too often, we criticize ourselves more harshly than anyone else ever could. We compare ourselves to others, dwell on failures, and focus on what we lack rather than what we have. Self-love turns that inner critic into a compassionate guide, reminding you that imperfections are part of being human. When you accept yourself unconditionally, the need for external approval diminishes, and the power of hurtful words or actions from others fades. Self-love also requires setting boundaries. Loving yourself means recognizing when people or situations are harmful to your well-being and having the courage to protect yourself. This could mean saying no when something does not serve your peace, walking away from toxic relationships, or limiting exposure to negativity. Boundaries are not acts of punishment for others, they are declarations of respect for yourself. By valuing your own emotional space, you prevent others from overstepping and causing unnecessary pain. Another essential aspect of self-love is prioritizing your own needs without guilt. We live in a culture that often glorifies self-sacrifice, leading many to neglect their own well-being while trying to please others. Yet you cannot pour from an empty cup. When you nourish your mind, body, and soul through rest, healthy habits, meditation, learning, or pursuing passions, you become stronger, more confident, and more balanced. This inner strength acts as a buffer against hurt because your happiness is rooted within, not dependent on external factors. Self-love also encourages self-compassion. Life will inevitably present challenges, mistakes, and disappointments, and treating yourself harshly during these moments only deepens your suffering. Instead, approach yourself with kindness and understanding, just as you would a dear friend. Remind yourself that struggle is a universal experience and that growth often comes through adversity. When you cultivate this compassionate mindset, you respond to life with resilience rather than fear or defensiveness, making it harder for others' actions to wound you. Practicing self-love further means trusting yourself. Trust that you are capable of navigating life's difficulties, making sound decisions, and recovering from setbacks. When you have faith in your own judgment and abilities, the need for constant validation or reassurance from others diminishes. You become self-reliant in your emotional world, and external negativity no longer dictates your sense of worth or peace. Finally, self-love is an ongoing practice. It requires daily attention, reflection, and conscious effort. Every time you speak kindly to yourself, honor your boundaries, or invest in your well-being, you strengthen your emotional armor. Over time, this consistent nurturing builds an inner sanctuary where negativity, criticism, and hurt cannot penetrate. In essence, self-love is the ultimate act of empowerment. It frees you from dependency on others for happiness, shields you from unnecessary pain, and allows you to navigate life with confidence, grace, and serenity. When you love yourself deeply, you discover a profound truth. The power to be unhurt does not lie in changing others, but in nurturing the relationship you have with your own heart. One of the most transformative ways to protect yourself from being hurt is to shift your perspective on pain and suffering. Pain is an inevitable part of life. It comes to everyone in various forms, whether through relationships, work, health, or unexpected events. While we often view pain as something to avoid or resist, the truth is that pain can be one of our greatest teachers. When you learn to see pain as a guide rather than an enemy, you unlock a path to wisdom, resilience, and freedom from being deeply hurt by others. Hmm? Seeing pain as a teacher begins with a simple yet profound shift in mindset. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" Every challenge, every moment of hurt carries a lesson. Perhaps it is teaching patience, humility, or empathy. Perhaps it is guiding you to set boundaries, to value yourself more, or to approach situations with greater awareness. Pain becomes meaningful when you stop seeing it as punishment and start seeing it as an opportunity for growth. This approach also allows you to detach emotionally from the hurt itself. When we view pain purely as suffering, we often react with anger, bitterness, or fear, which only deepens the wound. But when we see pain as a teacher, we can observe it on it and learn from it without letting it dominate our emotional world. It transforms the experience from something that diminishes us into something that strengthens us. In essence, the pain remains, but its power over us diminishes. Pain also teaches the art of resilience. Every time you face a difficult situation and navigate it consciously, you build inner strength. You learn that challenges are temporary and that you have the capacity to endure, adapt, and grow. This resilience becomes a shield against future hurt because you approach life with the understanding that setbacks are not the end of your story. They are stepping stones along your journey. Each painful experience is an opportunity to develop courage, patience, and emotional maturity. Furthermore, seeing pain as a teacher fosters empathy and understanding. When you have endured hurt yourself, you gain the ability to recognize and empathize with the struggles of others. This perspective softens judgment and harshness, allowing you to respond to others with compassion rather than resentment. Interestingly, this empathy often prevents future conflict and reduces the likelihood of being hurt, because relationships begin to be based on understanding rather than expectation or control. Pain also reveals truths about yourself that may otherwise remain hidden. It exposes areas where you have been overly attached, overly dependent on others for validation, or neglectful of your own needs. It highlights patterns of thinking, behavior, or relationships that are not serving your well-being. By reflecting on these insights, you can make conscious choices to change, grow, and protect yourself from repeating the same sources of hurt. Ultimately, seeing pain as a teacher transforms life from a series of wounds into a journey of wisdom. You stop fearing hurt because you understand that every challenge has a purpose and that every difficult moment can guide you toward growth and self-mastery. Life no longer feels random or cruel. It becomes a curriculum in which every experience contributes to your evolution. In essence, when you view pain as a teacher, hurt no longer has the power to break you. It becomes a mirror, a guide, and a tool for transformation. The lessons embedded in pain empower you to navigate life with grace, resilience, and emotional intelligence. You discover that true freedom from being hurt does not come from avoiding pain, but from learning from it, growing through it, and using it as a stepping stone toward inner strength and lasting peace. One of the most powerful ways to protect yourself from being hurt by others is to fully embrace the present moment. So often, pain arises not from what is happening now, but from dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. We play old wounds, grudges, or regrets in our minds, or we anxiously anticipate potential disappointments that may never come. This mental time travel keeps us trapped in cycles of fear, sadness, or anger, giving the power to hurt us far longer than the original situation deserves. Living in the present is the secret to reclaiming your peace, freeing your mind, and becoming truly unshakable. Living in the present begins with awareness. It requires noticing where your mind is. Are you dwelling on a past insult, a betrayal, or a failure? Are you anticipating someone's future reaction or worrying about an outcome you cannot control? When you catch yourself in these thoughts, gently redirect your attention to the here and now. The present moment is the only time in which life actually unfolds. By fully inhabiting it, you prevent old pain or imagined fears from dominating your emotional state. Focusing on the present also changes your perspective on hurtful experiences. When we are consumed by the past, we magnify wounds, seeing them as larger and more permanent than they truly are. When we are consumed by the future, We create unnecessary anxiety, imagining scenarios that may never occur. Ashton, by returning to the present, we see situations as they are, without distortion. This clarity allows us to respond with wisdom rather than react with fear or anger. Hurt may occur, but it no longer lingers and its impact diminishes. Living in the present also enhances gratitude. When you are fully aware of the current moment, you notice the small joys, connections, and blessings that are often overlooked. Gratitude shifts your focus from what has gone wrong to what is going right, from loss to abundance, and from fear to peace. The more you practice gratitude in the present, the less emotional space there is for resentment, envy, or hurt to take root. Mindfulness practices such as meditation, deep breathing, or simple observation exercises are powerful tools for anchoring yourself in the present. Even a few moments of focused attention on your breath, your surroundings, or your physical sensations can break the cycle of rumination and ground you in reality. Over time, this strengthens your mind's ability to stay present, reducing vulnerability to emotional pain caused by overthinking or dwelling on what cannot be changed. Living in the present also fosters stronger and more authentic relationships. When you are fully present with someone, listening and observing without distraction or judgment, you connect on a deeper level. Misunderstandings and hurt often arise when we are mentally elsewhere, projecting expectations, recalling old grievances, or imagining slights that may not exist. Presence dissolves these barriers, allowing you to engage with others from a place of clarity, calm, and sincerity. Ultimately, living in the present is a practice of freedom. It liberates you from the chains of past pain and future anxiety and allows you to experience life fully, moment by moment by moment. It teaches you that hurt loses its power when you refuse to dwell on it, and that peace emerges naturally when your mind and heart are grounded in what is real and immediate. In essence, living in the present is the culmination of all the steps that protect you from being hurt. It allows you to respond rather than react, to observe rather than judge, and to appreciate life without clinging to what was or fearing what might be. When you master the present, you discover a profound truth. Happiness and peace are not found in the past or the future, but in this very moment, here and now. By embracing the present, you are free, resilient, and truly unshakable, no matter what life or others may bring. Another crucial way to ensure you are never truly hurt by anyone is to cultivate inner peace. While all the other steps, understanding your worth, letting go of expectations, practicing forgiveness, and so on, provide powerful tools to protect yourself, inner peace acts as the foundation upon which all resilience is built. Inner peace is the quiet, unwavering calm within your mind and heart that remains untouched by chaos, criticism, or conflict. It is the place within yourself where no external circumstances, no matter how harsh, can disturb your equilibrium. Cultivating inner peace begins with acceptance. Life is unpredictable, and people will inevitably act in ways that may disappoint, anger, or hurt us. By accepting that the world is imperfect, that people have their own limitations, and that events will not always align with our desires, you free yourself from the constant struggle against reality. Acceptance does not mean passivity or resignation. It means acknowledging what is so that your energy can be used productively rather than wasted on resistance. When you accept reality as it is, you gain the calm clarity necessary to navigate challenges without being overwhelmed. Another pillar of inner peace is self-reflection. Taking the time to look inward and understand your own emotions allows you to identify the roots of your hurt and respond thoughtfully. When a hurtful incident occurs, instead of immediately reacting, pause and reflect. Why does this bother me? Is this a reflection of my own insecurities, expectations, or unresolved emotions? By asking these questions, you shift from being a passive victim of circumstance to an active participant in your emotional life. Reflection builds self-awareness, and self-awareness builds resilience. Inner peace also requires detachment from outcomes. Often we tie our sense of happiness, worth, or security to results, recognition, or approval. This creates a vulnerability. When reality does not match our expectations, hurt and disappointment follow. By detaching from specific outcomes while remaining fully engaged in life, you create a mental space where peace is independent of external validation. You learn to act with integrity, effort, and love without being emotionally dependent on the response of others. Mindfulness is another key practice in cultivating inner peace. When you anchor yourself in the present moment, observing your thoughts, sensations, and surroundings, you prevent the mind from being hijacked by worries about the past or future. Mindfulness allows you to respond rather than react, to observe rather than judge, and to experience life fully without unnecessary suffering. Through regular practice, your mind becomes a calm, steady refuge that is less affected by external turbulence. Additionally, inner peace grows when you consciously release negative emotions such as resentment, jealousy, and anger. Holding on to these emotions is like carrying heavy weights that drain your energy and amplify your vulnerability to hurt. Practices like meditation, journaling, or simply taking time to breathe and reflect can help release these emotional burdens. The lighter your heart, the more resilient you become, and the less power others' actions have to disturb your calm. Ultimately, cultivating inner peace is the practice of creating an unshakable sanctuary within yourself. It is a daily commitment to nurture calm, clarity, and balance, regardless of external circumstances. When you cultivate inner peace, you are no longer reactive, you are centered. Hurt may come, but it passes without leaving lasting damage. You develop the wisdom to navigate life gracefully, the strength to respond with composure, and the serenity to remain untouched by negativity. In essence, inner peace is the ultimate armor against hurt. It is not dependent on others, circumstances, or validation. It is entirely self-generated. By cultivating it, you step into a life where your happiness, resilience, and emotional freedom are protected. Where the storms of life may blow around you, but the calm within remains steady, unwavering, and eternal. Another vital step in never being hurt by anyone is to embrace self-responsibility. Life often teaches us that hurt comes from external sources, people's words, actions, or circumstances. But the truth is that how we experience life is largely shaped by how we take responsibility for our own emotions, choices, and reactions. Self-responsibility is the understanding that while you cannot control others, you can always control yourself. It is a conscious decision to own your life fully, to stop blaming others for your pain, and to cultivate empowerment from within. Embracing self-responsibility begins with a shift in perspective. Instead of saying, "they hurt me," or "this situation ruined me," you start asking, "how am I choosing to respond?" The same external event can affect two people very differently. One might feel devastated, while the other feels calm and composed. The difference lies in self-responsibility. By accepting that your response is your own choice, you reclaim your power and refuse to be a passive victim of circumstance. This mindset alone significantly reduces the potential for hurt. Taking responsibility also involves owning your emotions rather than projecting them onto others. It is easy to say, "they made me angry," or "they disappointed me." But these statements subtly give away your power. In reality, anger, sadness, and hurt arise within you. The actions of others may trigger them, but they do not create them. By acknowledging that your emotional experience is yours to manage, you step into a position of control. You learn to pause, reflect, and choose your response rather than reacting impulsively or allowing negativity to dominate your mind. Self-responsibility also encourages proactive growth. When you view yourself as the primary architect of your life, every challenge, insult, or setback becomes an opportunity for learning. Instead of blaming someone for causing pain, you ask, "what can I learn from this? How can I grow stronger?" This mindset transforms potential suffering into lessons in resilience, empathy, patience, and emotional intelligence. Pain becomes a tool for self-improvement rather than a weapon against your peace. Moreover, embracing self-responsibility empowers you to set healthy boundaries. Recognizing that you are responsible for protecting your own well-being allows you to make conscious decisions about the people you spend time with, the situations you engage in, and the habits you cultivate. You stop waiting for others to treat you properly or fulfill your needs, and you take deliberate action to maintain your emotional health. Boundaries in this sense are a direct expression of self-responsibility. They demonstrate that you are in charge of your life. Self-responsibility also reduces regret. When you own your choices, you accept the outcomes of your actions without blaming others. You develop a sense of agency, understanding that your life is shaped by your own decisions. This empowers you to approach relationships, work, and challenges with clarity and intentionality. making it far less likely that you will feel hurt or resentful when things do not go as planned. Ultimately, embracing self-responsibility is a path to freedom. It allows you to live without blaming, complaining, or giving away your power to others. Hurt may arise, it inevitably will in life, but it no longer defines you or controls you. You respond from strength rather than fear, from wisdom rather than impulse, and from love rather than resentment. Self-responsibility transforms vulnerability into empowerment and suffering into growth. In essence, when you fully embrace self-responsibility, you reclaim control of your emotional world. You realize that being unhurt is not about controlling others or avoiding life's challenges. It is about mastering yourself, owning your choices, and creating a life where your peace, happiness, and resilience are in your hands. This mindset is the ultimate key to emotional freedom and the foundation for a life unshakable by external circumstances.